Hi everybody, and welcome back to an Invisible and Invisible Illness Awareness Project. This week I wanted to talk about chemical sensitivity, and it just so happens I already wrote something on this topic, so I figured I would just read that to you guys first. This is something that you can find on the Uninvisible blog on WordPress or Tumblr. I'm not actively posting on there anymore, but I was posting before I started doing the videos for YouTube. September 2016, I moved into a student residence. That was when I first noticed a hypersensitivity to smells. I could smell what was cooking in the kitchen from 2 floors up at the opposite end of the hall. Sometimes it was temptingly pleasant, but the ready-made frozen microwavable dinners and prepackaged snacks smelled awful. The synthetic deodorants, perfumes, and air fresheners sprayed in the hall or shared toilet made me cringe. Worst of all was the stench of the industrial-grade cleaning products. For some reason, I was reluctant to admit that I also suffered from chemical sensitivity on top of everything else. So, although I wouldn't hesitate to say that the hand soap, surface cleaner, and mop detergent smelled horrible, it took me a while to be sure it was having an effect on my health. A couple times, it hit me as I walked into the kitchen after someone had mopped. Even though I never touched the stuff myself, the smell lingered in the air for hours, and despite walking in feeling fine, I'd soon be glued to my bed for the rest of the day. A couple other times, I was still asleep when they'd mopped the toilet and stairs down the hall. The smell wafted into my room and took me out like a ninja. But I know I'm actually quite lucky because many of you have to deal with full-blown anaphylaxis in response to the smallest odor. I know a lot of you also wear carbon filter masks, commonly known as VOG masks, which is something that's crossed my mind, but I'm not quite there yet. And then I got this message from someone who saw the Uninvisible Facebook page and wanted to ask me to post on this topic to help spread awareness. She said the thought of being trapped on a metro train going between stops with the only option of breathing air that is increasingly causing an anaphylactic reaction sounds like a death sentence. This ableist frivolity renders a whole mode of transportation inaccessible, or, if I hadn't read this, downright dangerous to me, or you, or others. So, that said, what exactly is chemical sensitivity? Well, in most countries it's not recognized as an independent diagnosis. It's just something that sort of comes on as a secondary effect of having another illness that makes you very hypersensitive, like ME, fibromyalgia, MCAS, EOE, or maybe as a result of the same genetic variants that cause those illnesses. The main symptoms are fatigue, headaches, nausea, brain fog, and dizziness. Other symptoms that have also been attributed to chemical sensitivity are difficulty breathing, pains in the throat, chest, or abdominal region, skin irritation, nerve pain, weakness, trembling, restless leg syndrome, tendinitis, seizures, visual disturbances like blurring, halo effect, or inability to focus, anxiety, panic, anger, sleep disturbance, suppression of immune system, digestive difficulties, indigestion, heartburn, vomiting, diarrhea, joint pains, abnormally acute sense of smell, dry mouth and eyes, and an overactive bladder. So in my case, as I said in the essay, I am very sensitive to a lot of smells, whether they're chemical or not, but a lot of these synthetic smells just don't smell good to me at all. And I was definitely so sensitive to it at the time when I wrote that essay that I was thinking about getting a VOG mask to filter the air when I was out in public, because there were just times when certain smells would hit you and I would want to have that mask ready to not have to continue breathing that in. Fortunately, I'm a lot less sensitive now in many different ways. So I'd say that even though I'm still sensitive to those smells in the sense that I'm aware of them and I find them unpleasant, I don't really have the same feeling that they're negatively impacting my health and just zapping my energy and causing all these other symptoms. But one thing that's really jumped out at me since I've been back in the States was that as soon as I arrived, I would walk into a bathroom and I could smell the Listerine, even though it was closed. And I think it's safe to say that the chemicals here are a lot stronger than what's being used in Europe. And I know the regulation standards are very different, so it's not really surprising, but I did notice that when they would use Pine Sol here, I would have the same reaction that I had a couple years ago living in this dorm, where it just completely zapped my energy and I would be in bed for the next few hours. Now, maybe it would only be 5 hours instead of 10 like it was back then, but I definitely still felt the effects, and I don't enjoy the smell of the other cleaning products at all. I just feel that the effects are not as harsh. I wouldn't say that they're not affecting me at all. I would love to get rid of them and replace them all with organic products. Fortunately, I am able to use organic products. For me, that works. For other people, organic is still not enough, and they just have to use scentless soap or vinegar, baking soda, or something like that. It just kind of depends on the person. So when this person reached out to me about the scent in their metro trains, I contacted somebody else I know who is a professional online researcher. That means he works for different companies who want to stay up to date about any new cutting-edge research. He will scan through all of the studies on PubMed and read the actual scientific research and really understand it and report back to these companies. Whereas most of us will read like a article summary for lay people. Maybe we'll link over to the actual study and read the abstract, but very few of us get into reading the whole thing. So this is someone that I really trust, who's very well educated, and when this person sends me information, I definitely value it. And this is what this person sent me. Air fresheners, the lowdown. Over the past few years, concerted and very clever advertising campaigns have seduced millions of people into installing air fresheners in their homes and cars. However, what consumers have actually purchased are not the all-natural bouquets of fragrance that manufacturers have hyped, but bunches of synthetic toxins. Many fragrance products are labeled unscented and all-natural, but in order to use these terms, the manufacturer is only obliged to include a minuscule amount of genuinely natural material in the product. The bulk of the ingredients are invariably synthetic chemicals that are not listed on packaging. Manufacturers are able to get away with this smoke and mirrors approach to marketing because they are not regulated by any external body, but by the industry's own trade body, known as the International Fragrance Association. It's virtually impossible to determine exactly what is in any given fragrance, as there are thousands of different fragrance chemicals used to produce different aromas, and many of these are known to cause serious damage to both animals and humans. These chemicals include formaldehyde, a sensitizer and group 1 carcinogen which causes cancer in humans, benzene, a carcinogen and possible reproductive toxin, styrene, a neurotoxin and suspected carcinogen, toluene, a skin irritant and liver-kidney toxin, terpenes, irritants and sensitizers, and phthalates, endocrine disruptors. Phthalates alone can cause reproductive and developmental harm, organ damage, immune suppression, endocrine disruption, and cancer, especially when products containing them are used during pregnancy, breastfeeding, and childhood. Air fresheners are actually among the most concentrated sources of indoor air pollution, which a steady growing mountain of evidence shows is having an adverse effect on the health of those who are exposed to them. A study commissioned in 2005 for a European consumers organization analyzed indoor air following the use of 74 different types of air freshener, including incense, natural products, scented candles, aerosols, liquid and electric diffusers, and gels. The researchers found that emissions of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, and potent neurotoxins, which attack the central and peripheral nervous systems, were alarmingly high. Indeed, for most of the products tested, the total VOCs exceeded the proposed maximum limit for indoor air in a number of countries with high concentrations of substances such as benzene and formaldehyde. In addition to the known actions of each of the individual air freshener ingredients, it is recognized that such chemicals can react with each other as well as with other substances to become even more hazardous. For example, D-limonene, found in lemon and pine-scented air fresheners, can react with indoor ozone to quickly form harmful particulates known to cause lung and heart disease. D-limonene and other terpenes, linalool and linolene, linalool and linolenic acetate can also react with ozone to make other secondary pollutants such as formaldehyde. A UK study of more than 10,000 women discovered that frequent use of air fresheners and aerosols during pregnancy and early childhood was associated with higher levels of diarrhea. Earache and other symptoms in infants, as well as headaches and depression in the mothers. Earaches and other symptoms in infants, as well as headaches and depression in the mothers. One particular chemical, called 1.4 dichlorobenzene, or 1.4 DCB, a VOC found in air fresheners, toilet bowl deodorants, and mothballs, can cause reduced lung function, which in turn can contribute to cardiovascular disease, strokes, and lung cancer. The incidence of asthma in children aged from 6 months has been found to be directly related to the level of indoor concentrations of 1.4 dCB. Contrary to the hype, air fresheners do not remove or break down bad odors. They work either by sneakingly interfering with your body's ability to detect smell, deadening the nerves, or coating the nasal passages with a thin, oily film, or by simply masking one smell with another, more powerful one. Aromatherapy candles, marketed as a natural alternative to conventional air fresheners, may appear attractive alternatives, but most of these actually use petrochemical fragrances rather than natural ones, and the candles themselves are often made of wax derived from petrochemicals, which releases toxic soot into the atmosphere as it burns. Buying pump sprays instead of aerosols does avoid breathing in irritant propellants, which are linked to nervous system disorders, lung inflammation, and liver damage, but the liquid they contain will likely still be toxic. A simple and effective, non-toxic DIY air freshener can be made by combining equal amounts of water and vinegar in a spray bottle and adding a few drops of an essential oil such as peppermint, lemon, pine, geranium, or tea tree. However, ventilation in the form of fresh air from open windows remains the simplest and most effective way to eliminate odors and improve indoor air quality. One thing people might take issue with that last bit is the assumption that outdoor air quality is better. It's definitely something I felt in Germany and France. In the States, especially in Houston, where I currently am, I definitely don't feel that at all. You might have heard about this fire a couple weeks ago. There were these huge tanks at this chemical plant that were burning for several days, and a giant black cloud of smoke that was trailing all the way across the city, and it takes an hour to drive across the city, and made a nice sunny day look like it was dark and cloudy. They were saying that the air quality was unaffected by that, which I'm very skeptical of. And then I start thinking, this would probably be a good time to leave town for a few days. Well, no, the stuff probably stays in the air for several years, so what difference is a few days going to make? And wait a second, it's not like this is the first time this has happened, so this stuff is probably already in the air. And as someone said, there's a reason they have a cancer center here. So as much as I enjoy filming outside while I can, I'm not really so sure about the air quality here, and it's definitely the same in other cities that are heavily polluted, which makes it especially difficult living with an illness like this, where you could even experience anaphylaxis, especially if you have MCAS. There's people who are so sensitive that they can't stand soap, deodorant, perfume, nothing scented at all. Not even the smell of alcoholic hand sanitizer. And people just don't get it. They'll have nurses sanitizing their hands before walking into the room and not realizing that they're just endangering the life of their patient. And then you get a lot of people who think like, oh, that's so small, it doesn't really matter. They shower with something and then they go over to visit them and set off a horrible reaction. You get people who just don't care. I've got a person who mops the floors here who just doesn't seem to want to listen when I tell her that I can't deal with the smell of the pine sol. And I bought this other organic cleaner, but she's saying she doesn't like the smell. And I'm like, for me, it's not about the smell. It's not about liking the smell. It's about what's going to make me sick or not. It's about my health, my safety. This could be life-threatening. It could be life-threatening to healthy people, who are not already chronically ill. But people just seem to really lack understanding here. This is one of those things where people just seem to often not believe that it's real, but I assure you that it is. And I would even say that I, compared to everyone else, have a milder form of it, but there are people out there who are so much more severe than I am. So definitely don't underestimate someone when they tell you about this. And to drive the point home even further, if you're watching this and you deal with chemical sensitivity yourself, please share your experience in the comments. We want to send a loud and clear message that this is real and should be taken seriously. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments too. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you'd like to help contribute to subtitles, especially translations into other languages, there's a link for that in the description, along with links to the Teespring shop where you can get some Invisible Illness Awareness t-shirts, or become a patron on Patreon and pledge as little as $1 a month, or donate to my GoFundMe. So check all those out, and I will see you guys next week.